Hunting Shadows. Episode 1. The Vanishing of Evelyn Parker. In the quiet town of Havenwood, nestled deep in the Appalachian hills, life moved slowly, and people believed they were safe, wrapped in the comfort of their quiet routines and familiar surroundings. That illusion was shattered the night Evelyn Parker vanished, leaving the town grappling with fear and uncertainty as their sense of security unraveled. What began as a simple missing persons case spiraled into a tale of hidden secrets, haunting questions, and the darkness that refuses to be ignored. My name is David Adkisson, and this is Hunting Shadows. Evelyn Parker was 24 years old, a recent graduate of Appalachian State University, where she majored in environmental science and ecology and minored in photography. Evelyn had a passion for capturing the beauty of the natural world, finding wonder in the mundane, a crack in the sidewalk, a bird in mid-flight, the dance of light and texture. One of her standout photographs, now framed in her family's home, is a close-up of a dew-covered spiderweb glinting in the morning sun, a simple yet mesmerizing testament to her unique perspective. But she wasn't just a face in the crowd. She was an active volunteer with a local wildlife rescue and a beloved member of Havenwood's tight-knit community. To her family, her friends, and the people of Havenwood, Evelyn was unforgettable. Today, we're going to uncover who she was before the night she vanished. I sat down with Evelyn's mother, Linda Parker, at her home just outside Havenwood. Family photos lined the walls, and a half-finished quilt lay across the couch, Evelyn's quilt. Linda began making it the week Evelyn disappeared. Miss Parker, tell me a little bit about your daughter.
Evelyn. She was my light, always so creative. She'd come home with pictures of the most ordinary things, the faint grooves of a weathered tree trunk, the peeling paint on an old park bench, and make them look magical. She had this way of seeing the world that, well, it made you see it differently too.
Evelyn's love for photography started young. Her brother, Michael, remembers her first camera.
It was this beat-up old camera we found at a garage sale. She couldn't have been more than 8 when she got it. The thing was held together with duct tape, and the lens barely stayed on, but she didn't care. Evelyn carried it everywhere, snapping pictures of anything that caught her eye. An old tire swing, a dog chasing its tail, stuff most people wouldn't think twice about. She just had this way of seeing things that made them special. My little sister made everything special. She was special.
Her friend, Jessica Moore, described Evelyn as a quiet but fiercely loyal friend.
Evelyn wasn't loud or outgoing, but when you got to know her, she was one of the funniest people you'd ever meet. And she cared. I mean, really cared. If you were going through something, she'd show up with your favorite coffee or just sit and listen. She was steady. You could count on her.
Evelyn's life seemed full of promise. She had recently been offered a freelance position with a travel magazine, a dream job for her. But something else was going on too, something she didn't share with many people.
The last few months, she seemed distracted. I asked her about it once and she just said, "It's nothing. Just some stuff I'm figuring out." She'd been taking these late-night walks by herself, which wasn't like her. I saw her writing in this notebook a lot too, but she'd close it quick if anyone got close. I thought maybe she was seeing someone new, or maybe working on a personal project, but she never really said. It was like she had this whole other world going on, and no one knew what it was. We used to talk about everything, you know? But during that time, it felt like she was pulling away from me too. There was this one night when I called her just to chat, and she sounded different. Like she was scared, but didn't want to say why. She brushed it off, but I knew something wasn't right. That all happened about a month before her disappearance. I keep thinking maybe if I'd pushed harder, asked more questions, I could have helped her, or at least given the police more to work with. I can't help but wonder if I missed the signs that something was really wrong.
But what was Evelyn figuring out? Her late night walks, her secret notebook. Did they hold clues no one had yet uncovered? Why did her thoughts seem to drift so far from those closest to her? Her disappearance left an emptiness that wasn't just about her absence. It fractured her family's sense of security and cast a long shadow over Havenwood, forever marking it as a town haunted by unanswered questions. The night Evelyn disappeared. October 14th, 2019, was a normal day for Evelyn, until it wasn't. She worked her usual shift at the Havenwood diner, clocking out at 10:15 p.m. But instead of driving straight home, she took a detour. Her car was found hours later on Hollow Creek Trail, a narrow, winding path surrounded by dense forest. The doors were unlocked, the keys in the ignition, her purse still inside. The area was eerily silent, with no signs of recent activity, adding an unsettling air to the already mysterious scene. The driver's seat was slightly reclined, and faint scuff marks were found on the passenger door, raising questions about a possible struggle. But there was no sign of Evelyn. Thank you for joining me today. Could you please introduce yourself to our listeners and explain your role in the investigation of Evelyn Parker's disappearance?
My name is Detective Claire Monahan. I've served with the Havenwood Police Department for over 10 years, and I was assigned as the lead investigator on Evelyn Parker's case. From the moment she was reported missing, I've worked side by side with her family, carefully piecing together evidence and chasing down every possible lead. This case has tested my skills and my resolve in ways I never anticipated. It's not just another investigation, it's personal. And in a small town like Havenwood, everyone feels the weight of her absence.
Detective Monahan, could you walk us through what you remember from the night Evelyn went missing?
The night Evelyn went missing is one I'll never forget. I had just wrapped up my shift at the station when the call came in. Missing person, young woman, last seen leaving work. Calls like that come in more often than you'd think, and usually the person turns up the next morning. But something about this one felt different. I drove straight to Hollow Creek Trail where her car was found. It was late, the air was sharp, and the woods were dark enough to swallow a flashlight beam. When we got to the scene, the car stood out, doors unlocked, keys in the ignition, purse untouched on the passenger seat. The first thing I thought was, why leave everything behind? We searched the immediate area, but there wasn't a single sign of where she might have gone. The dirt trail was undisturbed. No footprints, no tire tracks. Just the car and an empty stretch of woods. I spent hours walking up and down that trail, shining my light into the underbrush, calling her name, hoping to find anything. A scarf, a shoe, something. But there was nothing. That's what sticks with me the most. Not just the absence of Evelyn, but the absence of any clue at all. Cases like this don't usually start so quiet, and when they do, it's never a good sign. The more I looked at that car, the more questions I had. The driver's seat was reclined a little too far back, like someone else might have been there. Scuff marks near the passenger door caught my eye. Faint, but they were there. Those details told me one thing. Whatever happened to Evelyn, it didn't start or end where we found that car. I've worked a lot of cases over the years, but this one, it's different. It's the kind of case that keeps you up at night, going over every detail, wondering what you missed. Evelyn's disappearance isn't just another file in the cabinet. It's the one you carry with you.
That night, her car and its surroundings told only half the story. The other half remained hidden in the whispers of the forest and the silence of those who might know more than they let on.
Breaking news out of Havenwood tonight. A body has been discovered along Hollow Creek Trail. Authorities have confirmed that the victim is a female, but her identity remains unknown at this time. Investigators are on the scene, and the area has been cordoned off as a crime scene. This marks the first major development in the area since the disappearance of Evelyn Parker nearly a year ago today. Channel 10 News reporting live from...
When the news broke, the town of Havenwood was shaken to its core. For a year, Evelyn Parker's disappearance had been the town's only major mystery. But now, with the discovery of a body on the same trail where Evelyn's car was found, speculation grew rampant. Could this be Evelyn? Or was this the work of someone with a dangerous motive lurking in the quiet corners of Havenwood? The first discovery. The body was sent to the county coroner for identification. Days passed without answers, but when the victim's identity was finally released, it wasn't Evelyn Parker. The woman was identified as 32-year-old Sarah Wilcox, a nurse from a neighboring county who had no apparent ties to Havenwood. The discovery raised more questions than it answered. Detective Monahan had this to say about Sarah Wilcox's body being found.
We didn't have any reason to believe Sarah Wilcox had ever even been to Havenwood before that night. The case was strange from the start. No obvious connection to Evelyn Parker, no clear motive, and no witnesses.
But the most chilling detail was yet to come. Near Sarah's body, carved into a tree, was a symbol that investigators couldn't explain. A circle within a crescent moon. Some detectives speculated it could be tied to an obscure local legend, while others thought it might be a cryptic calling card. The symbol's meaning remained a mystery, fueling theories and unsettling the town further. It was the first hint of what would come to haunt Havenwood for years to follow. To dig deeper into this mystery, I reached out to Dr. Richard Hayes, the county coroner who examined Sarah Wilcox's body. Dr. Hayes, thank you for joining us. Can you walk us through the findings from Sarah's autopsy?
Of course. When Sarah's body was brought to us, the first thing we noted was the condition of her remains. She had been exposed to the elements for a few days, but it was clear that the cause of death wasn't due to natural causes. The primary finding was a deep laceration on the back of her head, likely caused by a blunt object. The angle and severity suggest it was a single deliberate blow. There were also signs of defensive wounds on her arms and hands, scratches and bruises that indicate she tried to protect herself. Toxicology came back clean, so there's no evidence she was drugged. What's most disturbing, however, is that the wound on her head wasn't immediately fatal. She likely lay unconscious for several hours before succumbing to her injuries.
That is simply horrifying. Was there anything else unusual about the autopsy?
Yes, one detail stood out. On her wrist, we found faint markings, almost like a brand or stamp, but they weren't clear enough to identify. It's not a common feature in cases like this and could be important to understanding what happened to her.
A mark on her wrist, defensive wounds, and a blow to the head. This wasn't an accident. Sarah's death wasn't just tragic. It was intentional. And the mark on her wrist might be the key to unlocking what really happened. And yet, as questions grew, so did the town's fear. What did this symbol mean, and how could it connect to two lives seemingly unrelated yet bound by this haunting trail? Chapter 4. The Threads Weave Together. Wow, Miss Parker, these pictures look fantastic. Evelyn looks so happy in them. She also looks like she was quite the handful.
Oh, always. From the moment she could walk, she was a little explorer. See this one here? That was her at 5, climbing every rock she could find on one of our camping trips. I had to keep an eye on her constantly, or she'd disappear into the trees.
Oh, that's a cute photo. I assume it's of her 6th birthday from the giant 6 piñata.
Oh, she loved that day. We had all her cousins over, and she refused to stop until every last piece of candy was on the ground. Just pure joy.
It's clear she was so loved, Miss Parker. But I know it's been so hard not having answers. Can you tell me about the last time you saw Evelyn? What stands out to you now?
It was the night before she disappeared. She came by for dinner out of the blue. We had spaghetti, her favorite. She seemed quieter than usual, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Before she left, she gave me the biggest hug and said, "I love you, Mom." That's the moment I replay in my head every night.
Jessica, her best friend, mentioned she had been taking late-night walks in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Did Evelyn ever talk to you about those?
Not directly, but now that you mention it, there was this notebook she carried around everywhere. I asked her once what she was always writing in it, and she just laughed and said, "It's nothing, Mom, just some ideas for a project." I didn't push her. I wish I had. I think about that notebook all the time now, wondering what she didn't want to share.
It seems like that notebook held more than just ideas. Jessica described it as almost a journal, something Evelyn was deeply protective of. Do you think there's something in it that might explain what she was going through?
I can't help but think so. Evelyn was always good at hiding her worries. But maybe she left clues in those pages, something she couldn't tell us outright. She wasn't someone to ask for help easily. It makes me wonder if she was trying to solve something on her own.
And those late-night walks, could they have been connected to what she was writing about? Jessica described her as seeming distracted, almost restless. Did she ever seem afraid?
Afraid? I don't know. She never said anything directly, but now that I think about it, she did start locking her bedroom door at night. She never used to do that. And a few days before she disappeared, she asked me if I thought anyone in town could keep secrets.
Do you think she might have known something? Or someone that scared her?
I wish I knew. I wish I had asked her more questions, paid closer attention. But now all I have are these photos, these memories, these what ifs.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing so much with us. Evelyn's story still holds Havenwood in its grip. And as we uncover more, we may finally find the answers you've been searching for. But Linda's story isn't the only one we've heard. I reached out to Detective Claire Monahan to discuss her latest findings, particularly the connection between Evelyn Parker and Sarah Wilcox.
The connection isn't obvious, but it's there. We've been looking into Sarah's recent contacts, and one name came up that overlaps with Evelyn's, someone both women interacted with before they vanished.
And who is that?
A local handyman named Daniel Hurst. He worked odd jobs for both families, and while nothing ties him directly to either disappearance yet, his name is enough to raise questions.
Have you spoken with him?
Not yet. We're keeping it quiet until we gather more evidence, but he's definitely on our radar.
Next week, we'll dive deeper into Daniel Hurst's past, unraveling his connections to Havenwood and the chilling discoveries that may finally shed light on what really happened to Evelyn Parker. And then there's something Detective Monahan refused to elaborate on. Evidence found near Sarah Wilcox's body. It changes everything we thought we knew about Evelyn's disappearance. Join us as we unravel the truth, one shadow at a time, in the next episode of Hunting Shadows.
That notebook was always a bit strange to me. Had the weirdest moon symbol on the front. Creeped me out.
Wait, you have what on the cover? Credits for Hunting Shadows. Episode 1, The Vanishing of Evelyn Parker. Host and producer, David Adkisson. Created by Hot Air Productions. In partnership with Fake Crimes Production House, where the thrill of true crime meets the freedom of fiction. No one was harmed in the creation of this story. Episode 1, special thanks to my mom for inspiring a lifelong love of storytelling and a fascination with the mysteries that surround us. Your support and encouragement helped bring this series to life. Production team, writing, editing, and sound design, David Adkisson. Voice performances, David Adkisson. Powered by 11 Labs technology to deliver an immersive audio experience. Acknowledgements. This series wouldn't be possible without the unwavering support of family, friends, and the listeners who bring these stories into their hearts. Thank you for believing in this journey and for letting Hunting Shadows become a part of your imagination.